Welcome, everyone. Today, we're going to share a story, a really captivating and honestly quite chilling account from the front lines. It's a true story shared by a soldier. And it's not just any war story. This one blends the harsh reality of conflict with things that are, well, harder to explain. Things that make you question what might be out there, just beyond what we normally perceive.
Yeah, the source for this is a detailed account from a YouTube channel called Nuangle. Specifically, it's from their combat EP.51. It's a first-hand report, happened in a specific place, a specific time.
Exactly. And what we want to do is explore this narrative. It's fascinating because it weaves together, real-world history, the border conflict, with this very personal, supernatural seeming experience. We'll focus on the soldier's account, how he experienced it, and later maybe connect it to some cultural beliefs and context. But importantly, we're just relaying the story as told in the source material, not taking a stance on whether it happened exactly like that.
Right. So let's set the scene. The year is 2011. There's this long-running border dispute between Thailand and Cambodia focused around the Preah temple. And this wasn't just political posturing. It was pretty grim on the ground. Intense clashes were happening, especially in certain province places like Prasat Takwai and Prasat Muon Tom. Yeah, the reports mention constant gunfire. Tragically, 4 Thai soldiers lost their lives and about 14 others were injured. Civilians actually had to be evacuated from the area. It was dangerous. Okay, so into this situation comes our central figure, a soldier named Mr. Vihear, that's Omkara in Thai. He was of the 2nd Battle Group. Now, Vihear temple itself is technically in Sisaket province, but Mr. Vihear's unit, they were deployed as reserves right in Surin province. This was a direct border area right next to Cambodia, where Cambodian forces were actively encroaching.
And you have to imagine what it was like arriving there. For Mr. Wang and his unit, the conditions were, well, incredibly challenging. The area they were deployed to was mostly just farmland and forest, very undeveloped. Their initial setup was really rudimentary, no electricity, no running water. They literally had to build makeshift shelters themselves just to have some protection before night fell. Even basic things like toilets meant digging holes out in the wilderness with a hoe. That's how basic it was at the start.
Wow. So their early routine was just about survival and readiness. Setting up camp, cooking meals, and then crucially gathering to sort out the guard shifts for the night. And in those very first days, there were no proper bunkers or fortified positions. They were just relying on, trees and natural mounds for cover if something happened. The tension must have been immense.
Absolutely. Constant vigilance in a very raw environment.
So it's their very first night there. Mr. Wing isn't actually on guard duty yet. He wants to call his mother. Apparently, she didn't even know he was right at the border, in the thick of it. He finds this secluded spot behind a military truck, uses a wooden gun crate as a kind of makeshift bed. It's about 10 p.m. And despite everything, he feels this surge of excitement. He's finally at the border, so he calls his mom. They chat. He shares what little news he can. His mother, naturally, is worried, hearing of the situation maybe on the news. Then she passes the phone to his younger brother. And this is where it gets really weird. His brother's first words are something like, "Oh, are you with friends? You must not be lonely now."
Right out of the gate.
Exactly. And Mr. Wing is completely startled. He's totally alone behind this truck. But his brother insists he heard a big, deep laugh coming from Mr. Wang's end of the line. Then his mother gets back on the phone, and she says the same thing, asking if he's with friends because she also heard loud laughter.
Both of them heard it, miles away.
Yeah, so Mr. Wang is understandably pretty disturbed by this. He quickly makes an excuse, says he'll call back tomorrow, and hangs up. He immediately gets off the truck and goes to find his buddies who are gathered nearby. But as he walks up to them, one of his friends suddenly flinches, physically recoils, and says he just got goosebumps all over his body. For no apparent reason.
Wow.
Mr. Wang tries to laugh it off, but inside, he's deeply uneasy. That whole sequence is just unsettling.
It really is. That initial experience is so potent. You have this unseen element confirmed by people far away through technology, and then an immediate physical reaction from someone nearby. It just instantly blurs that line between what's real and what's not.
Definitely sets a tone. So time moves on. Days turn into weeks at the border post, and things do get better, physically at least. Local villagers were apparently incredibly helpful. They helped bring in electricity, set up proper water pipes, even built actual toilets, and constructed real guard posts. So materially, life improved.
Which you'd think would make things feel safer, more normal.
You would think. But somehow, the atmosphere itself seemed to shift, became maybe even more unsettling, despite the better conditions. One night, the soldiers were just chatting, relaxing a bit, And one friend starts recounting something scary that happened to him a couple of nights before, around 2 a.m., while he was on guard. He said he clearly heard something heavy splash into a nearby pond. But the weird thing was, there are no trees near the pond, nothing that could have fallen in. Just open ground around the water.
Okay, so unexplained sounds now, too.
Yeah, and then other soldiers chime in. Some reported seeing strange floating lights near the treetops late at night. Others mentioned feeling this intense sense of being watched during their shifts, like they were never really alone out there. And as Mr. Wang is listening to all this, he gets this sudden chill.
Yeah.
Because he realizes he's felt that too, that persistent feeling of unseen eyes on him during his own night shifts.
So his own feelings are validated by others' experiences.
Exactly, and hearing them voice it makes it much more real, much more disturbing for him. So much so that he actually starts waking up a friend to go with him on his guard duties.
Right.
Even though he hasn't personally seen anything yet, he just doesn't want to be alone out there anymore.
That's fascinating. You see this escalation, right?
Yeah.
From individual odd feelings or sounds to shared experiences, it really highlights the collective psychological pressure cooker they were in. And when you layer in the existing cultural beliefs about spirits, about the unseen world, which are quite strong in that region, it's easy to see how these strange happenings get interpreted and amplified.
Well, it definitely escalated for Mr. Wiang. The most terrifying incident happened one evening around 9 p.m. There was a troop assembly, and he got assigned to guard the gun pit, alone. So he's lying in his tent near the pit, just playing on his phone to pass the time before his shift really starts. Suddenly he hears voices nearby. A man and a woman, and they're speaking Khmer, the Cambodian language. The voices get louder, like they're having a really heated argument. He's curious, maybe a bit annoyed too. So he opens his tent flap to peek outside, see who it is.
Nothing.
Absolutely no one there. No villagers, no other soldiers, just empty space where the voices seem to be coming from. That's when the fear really hits him, that creeping, this isn't right feeling. He quickly ducks back inside his tent, zips it up. And the moment he's back inside, a dog starts barking furiously right at his head, just outside the thin canvas of the tent.
Right there. Oh, man.
Instinct takes over. He yanks his blanket completely over his head like a kid hiding from monsters. And then the voices return. The arguing man and woman. But this time, they are clearly, unmistakably inside the tent with him.
Inside the tent.
Inside. He's paralyzed with fear under the blanket, but eventually, he forces himself to slowly peek out from under the edge. And what he sees is just horrific. There's a tall, large man standing silently at the foot of his sleeping mat, muttering something in Khmer. And next to the man, the woman. She starts to emerge from under his blanket with him, slithering up from his feet, slowly moving towards his face.
Oh, no.
Her face gets closer and closer, maybe just a hand's width away. And then she slowly extends her tongue towards him. He said it was long, black, and just unnaturally lengthy, almost touching his face.
That is pure nightmare fuel.
Absolutely terrifying. In that moment, just pure terror. He does the only thing he can think of. He silently starts reciting a Buddhist prayer, Iti Piso Bogawa, over and over in his head. And he makes a mental promise to make merit for them, to help their spirits. And right then, both figures speak something in Khmer again. He didn't fully understand it, but it sounded something like, oh, good luck, or maybe go out. And then they just vanished, gone. He screamed for help then, finally letting it out, but the gun pit was too far from the main camp area. Nobody heard him.
Just unimaginable terror. Alone.
The very next morning, he was shaken but determined. He couldn't get to a temple, obviously, so he performed a traditional merit-making ritual right there, pouring water under a large tree, dedicating the merit to them as he promised. And after that specific, horrifying incident, he never saw that particular man and woman again.
It's worth pausing here because the source material actually gives this female entity a name, connecting it to local folklore. She's identified as Phi Shamat, or Phi Thamab in Khmer, which apparently translates roughly to Phi Pob in Thai folklore.
Phi Pob. I've heard of that. Isn't that a type of possessing spirit?
Exactly. Phi Pob is often believed to be the ghost of a woman, sometimes one who died violently or improperly, often in the forest. The lore says they can possess people, traditionally entering through the big toe. Once inside, they're said to consume the person's internal organs, leading to illness, strange behavior, even death. There are traditional remedies, like specific spells or wearing sacred threads around the feet, meant to ward them off.
Wow. So that description, the long tongue, the terrifying presence, it fits within a known category of spirit in that region's beliefs.
Precisely. It adds this layer of specific cultural dread to what was already a terrifying personal encounter for Mr. Wang.
Okay, so you'd think after that maybe things would calm down. But no. the strange occurrences continued, even after the tent nightmare. One night, about 10 p.m., Mr. Wiang needs to use the new restroom they'd built. It was better than a hole in the ground, but still a bit of a trek, maybe 300 meters away from the main camp, surrounded by forest. Still felt isolated. So he's in one of the stalls, and he hears footsteps outside. Distinctly. Like someone wearing sandals, walking on dry leaves, circling the 3 restroom stalls.
Just circling, not coming in.
Yeah, just walking around and around. And I thought it was weird. Like, why aren't they just coming in? Then suddenly the door to one of the other stalls slammed shut. Hard. He said he initially found it kind of amusing, thinking maybe a friend was just messing around or really needed to go in a hurry. But when he finished up and opened his own stall door, ready to maybe tease whoever it was, all the other stall doors were wide open. And there was absolutely no one there.
The sounds had no source again?
None. And the next morning, apparently his friends teased him, asking who was running back to camp with a flashlight the night before, looking panicked. He just brushed it off, still trying to rationalize maybe, thinking he was just hearing things. But the strangeness wasn't just at night. This next bit is really unnerving because it happened in broad daylight. A few days later, around 2:40 in the afternoon, middle of the day, Mr. Wang is guarding the gun pit alone again. His friends were off helping some villagers with something. He kind of dozes off, just leaning against a tent pole. He snaps awake because he hears this clear female voice, not outside, but echoing inside his head. And the voice is saying, "Don't let him wake up, hold him down, hold him down."
Inside his head? Like sleep paralysis, maybe?
He said it felt much more intense than that, more than just being ghost-ridden, as they call it sometimes. He felt this immense physical pressure on his legs, like he was completely paralyzed, couldn't move them at all. He struggles, forces his eyes open, and he sees a solid black shadow, like a distinct shape, pressing down heavily on his legs.
A physical manifestation in daylight.
Yes. Solid black shadow. Again, instinctively, he starts silently reciting his prayer, Iti Piso Bagawa, and promises again to make merit. And just like before, the pressure and the shadow instantly vanished. He's left gasping for breath, heart pounding like crazy, just completely shaken that this happened in the middle of the afternoon.
That's quite significant, isn't it? The fact that these experiences weren't confined to the dark. It suggests something persistent, pervasive. You know, it really makes you question how much the environment itself, the history of the place, the constant stress could affect perception, blurring those lines between the internal and external, even when the sun is shining.
Yeah, it's deeply unsettling. So his deployment starts winding down, enters its final month, he gets assigned a new duty. Wake up really early, around 4 a.m. every day, to help prepare food and go to the market with some other soldiers. And every single morning, like clockwork, at precisely 4 a.m., he hears his name called once. Wing. Clear as day. It jolts him awake instantly. But again, nobody's there.
Every morning, at the exact same time.
Every single morning. He thought, okay, maybe his friends are finally messing with him. So one day, he decides to test it. He pretends to be fast asleep well before 4 a.m., just waiting. But on that specific morning, the call never came.
So that ruled out the prank theory.
Pretty much confirmed it wasn't his friends. Whatever was calling him seemed to know if he was actually asleep or just pretending. Finally, the good news arrives. The order comes down. The situation around Preah Vihear has stabilized enough. Their unit is being pulled back, returning to the main battalion. And interestingly, on that very last night at the border post, Mr. Wang didn't hear any strange sounds. No calls at 4 a.m. Silence.
Like the presence knew they were leaving.
It certainly seemed that way.
Yeah.
So the next morning, they're all packing up their gear, loading onto the trucks, ready to leave this unsettling place behind. Mr. Wang is sitting on the truck, and a friend sitting next to him just casually makes this remark, almost an afterthought. He says to Mr. Wang, "Hey, do you know, this area where we've been stationed this whole time, it's actually an old graveyard."
Oh, wow.
Yeah. He says apparently in the past, villagers used to bring lots of bodies here to be buried. The whole area they'd been living on, digging in, patrolling, was burial ground.
That changes everything, doesn't it? Suddenly all those disparate, terrifying experiences, the voices, the figures, the feelings of being watched, even the daytime shadow. When you place them against the backdrop of it being an ancient graveyard, a place literally filled with the dead, it provides this incredibly profound, chilling context. It really underscores how the history embedded in the land itself, these unseen layers, can potentially interact with human experience, especially under conditions of extreme stress, isolation, and heightened awareness like military deployment near a conflict zone. The cultural beliefs about spirits in such places only amplify that connection.
Absolutely. It ties it all together in a really disturbing way. So what do we take away from Mr. Wang's story? We've followed him from that first strange phone call, through the truly horrific tent encounter, the persistent weirdness like the bathroom sounds and the daytime shadow, the recurring 4 a.m. call, all culminating in that final, chilling revelation about the graveyard. It's a powerful account, isn't it? A stark reminder of, well, perhaps the unseen world, and definitely the histories that linger just beneath the surface of the places we inhabit, especially places marked by conflict and death.
It really compels you to think about the power of place and the power of belief. This narrative bridges that gap between the very real, tangible world of soldiers and conflict and these deeply personal, often terrifying experiences that align with folklore and the unexplained. It encourages us, I think, to consider how these different kinds of reality can, and perhaps do, intersect in ways we don't fully grasp.
Thank you so much for joining us as we explored this incredible, unsettling story. We hope it gave you something to think about. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and try to keep an open mind. Goodbye for now.